it is the right choice for both countries to be friends who have good neighborly and amicable ties, partners who enable each other's success, and to have the dragon and the elephant dance together.
The Chinese, they have found that India is not very supportive to their ambitions to become the world power and creating an alternative world order. Xi Jinping, what he is speaking is very soft, is very appreciative, and he wants to constructively engage with India. If he stand and stay on these policies, then definitely that the Americans' unilateral approach, hegemonic approach in Asian countries will not work. India, of course, is looking forward to have a constructive economic engagement with the Chinese.
And if Trump is going to be scared of this new regional shift,
nobody is going to stop the Chinese ambitious plan to create an alternative world order.
Hello and welcome to the Indian Express. I'm Charulata Biswas and welcome to another Explained. China is hosting the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, one of its biggest diplomatic gatherings this year. And leaders like Russian President Vladimir Putin, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, they are all there in Tianjin. The SCO started in the late 1990s as a mechanism to resolve border disputes in Central Asia, but today it has grown into a strategic bloc where China, Russia, India, and others discuss economy, security, and often presenting themselves as an alternative to the West. Now, what has grabbed everyone's attention today is Xi Jinping and Narendra Modi's bilateral meeting, which happened before the SCO Summit. And this is crucial at a time when India-China ties are strained since Galwan, and every word counts today. So to decode what Xi's message really means for India, for China, and for the balance of power in the region, I'm being joined by Professor Sanjay Bhaiwaj from JNU's Center for South Asian Studies for this conversation. Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Charulata.
Good afternoon, sir. So thank you so much for joining me. You must have heard the speech that Xi Jinping made. So my first question to you would be the language itself. It looked like it was a classic soft power language. Can you tell me if it was genuinely China when it said that we are two ancient civilizations and we need to go in this direction equally, on equal footing? Do you think it really aspires to treat India as an equal power?
Yeah, I think he is correct while he's mentioning that India and China, they are the two civilizational states, and they are the Asian economies, they are the Asian power you can see. And then you can also see that both the countries, they are aspired to become very influential power in the world politics. But in the developments were taking place in the last decades and more, we have seen that, yes, of course, there is a rise of China. And many scholars said that this rise of China will not be a peaceful rise. And it has been doing fairly good in economic sphere. And they are trying to expand its economic and strategic interests all over the world. But you can see after in a decade also that the Chinese, they have come out with the 2-3 very significant policy initiatives. One is, of course, they have become much more expansionist. And these expansionist approach of Chinese, particularly presenting itself as a middle kingdom, has created uncomfort for the neighboring countries in Southeast Asia, while they were expanding and building artificial ports. The Vietnam, Philippines, and all these Southeast Asian countries has become very conscious about the Chinese expansionist approach. In the sense of India, China, they also become quite revisionist. in their approach, and that has become very aggressive while they come out with the Doklam and Galwan and all these incidents. So keeping this into background and keeping the Chinese ambitious policy of Belt and Road Initiatives, BRI, the other world, particularly led by the Americans or the West, they have developed an alternative discourse or alternative platform known as the Quad in number one, and under the emerging Indo-Pacific strategy. And India is, of course, a member of active member of Quad, along with Japan and Australia and America. So, and the Belt and Road initiatives has also been questioned by the Indian government, either in Sri Lanka or in Bangladesh or in Pakistan, particularly that the China-Pakistan economic corridor has been questioned, that is a clear-cut violation of the India's sovereignty and territorial integrity. So this has basically created a uncomfortable zone between India and China, because the Chinese, they have found that India is not very supportive to their ambitions to become the world power and creating an alternative world order, what they were looking, either the bipolar world order or the multipolar world order. So and I think the Chinese, they were also aspiring to lead the another world, and they did not find much India's support, and they have become very aggressive, and simultaneously India has also cultivated very close strategic partnership with the Americans. So both the factors basically contributed in distancing the ongoing India-China ties, engagement on economic spheres and all other spheres. Now, since the new developments had taken place, one is, of course, India has seen that the terrorism and the way the Chinese has supported the Pakistan sponsored terrorism, and Turkey and other countries has also come out.
Right.
Second, of course, the Americans, they were very dubious, and they had the double standard on this dealing, while Trump is having tea and coffee with General Munir. And the third, that they have also come out with the new age of tariff war. These developments in case of India and the earlier development in case of China, I think that both the countries, they have started rationalizing their policies towards each other. And because of that rationalization of policies, they are coming out with these soft approaches and soft talk about each other, that we are civilizational states and we should work together and we should protect each other's interests.
Professor Sanjay, what is the end game here? What are we looking at? Because there are talks that China wants a rival front to the US and its allies like NATO, G7 and Quad. So do you see that India will agree to be its partner to build this rival front? What is your assessment?
See, I think India would like to remain in a win-win situation. In a way, like when there were end of Cold War, that we have cultivated, we have started a cordial relations engagement with the Chinese. Let's engage in economic and other spheres, and let's maintain the status quo. And this trust was built across the line of actual control. So, and we have progressed, that we have reached about $140 billion bilateral trade in between India and China, and that was on the cost that we have a huge trade deficit with China. So, India, of course, is looking forward to have a constructive economic engagement with the Chinese. But of course, the other issues, those are very critical, very crucial, particularly geostrategic and geopolitical issues, where the China has always stopping India to become the permanent member on UN Security Council, and stopping India to become the member of the nuclear supplier group. So if the Chinese, they are looking and they want to address the India's political and strategic concerns as well, I think India will have a very constructive engagement with the Chinese, and there would be no balance of power, and there will be no containment of each other. And there is a scope that India will try to maintain equidistance between China and the Americans. And the Americans will keep the same pace of a very dubious policy about South Asia and Pakistan and all that. So I'm sure that these policies, in fact, from the American approach and from the Chinese approach, will give a space to India to move very consciously to ensure its economic and strategic interest for the betterment of the Indian people.
Absolutely. How do you think India has responded right now? You must have heard Prime Minister Narendra Modi's remarks as well, and he has assured that we also want to build trust. Do you think with the ongoing, the kind of authoritarian politics that China has and the aggressive stance it has had in terms of, say, Galwan, what happened in Galwan, do you think India is ready to move in that direction amicably?
I think what I would say that India has re-emphasized and assured their multi-aligned foreign policy. What earlier were more tilted towards the West and developing and almost allied with the Americans. Now we will be multi-aligned in a sense that we will be active member of SCO to ensure the security and cooperation issues in Central Asia and Eurasian countries. We will also be active in BRICS and for the economic and other benefits, but we will also try to equally engage with the Quad, because Quad is it is not just America. There are also Australia, and there is also Japan. So we are very good relations with the Japanese and with the Australians. So I'm sure that India will strengthen its policy of multi-alignment with independent foreign policy and strategic autonomy. So I think it is the right approach what Prime Minister Narendra Modi had taken, that he had gone to Japan, and we had basically deepened our relations with Japan, not only just the economic, but other science and technology and semiconductor and capacity build-up and all those areas. And we are also equally trying to strengthen and normalize relations with the Chinese, because the Chinese, they are also equally looking to have a constructive engagement with India, keeping the Americans, that tariff war. And in this tariff war, what the Trump administration has gained, that none of the countries are coming together and negotiating. That he is negotiating with all the countries individually, and in this individual negotiations, the Trump and the Americans, they are in the upper hand. So I think while the China and India are together and they are discussing, they can jointly negotiate to protect each other's economic and trade interest vis-a-vis Americans.
Absolutely. You're talking about protecting each other's interest. But my last question to you is, are we looking at New South Asia in terms of this shifting world order? Because when China speaks of cooperation and stability, it's not just about India, but it's talking about reshaping the balance of power in the entire region. What is your assessment on this? And where do you see China wants to position itself at the center of regional politics?
A very important question, but let me answer in different way. If we are actually looking all the neighbors and India's neighborhood policy, under India's neighborhood policy, you can start from Gujarat, where we have talked about the non-reciprocity, and then Manmohan Singh with the generosity, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi has come out with the India's neighborhood first policy. So we try to engage the neighboring countries very constructively in the developmental manner. We have extended line of credit from Afghanistan to Nepal to Sri Lanka to Bangladesh, around $10 billion. We have extended line of credit. But you can see that the Chinese, they always factored. They have given kind of opportunities that let us come to South Asia. We will bring the development. We will bring the infrastructure and investments in these countries. And they are basically, some of them, they have trapped. Sri Lanka is one of the examples. And then they have realized it that, yes, you cannot have that kind of imbalanced approach, bringing extra regional powers in the region, then they are not friends in the crisis. So the point is very clear that the most of the problems in South Asia, with India's and with the South Asian states, and in other way, is that the Chinese constant increasing presence, geostrategic and geoeconomic presence in all the South Asian countries. What the Pakistanis, they were getting supports from the Chinese for the military, for the other to the violent non-state actors. While we were asking to put the terrorists in the blacklist of the UN, the Chinese, they were vetoing kind of thing. So we have seen that the Chinese, they have used Pakistan, and they are making their strategic depth in Nepal and Bangladesh and Maldives and Sri Lanka, and creating an alternative political discourse, or balancing or engaging or hazing India within South Asia. If the Chinese, they will understand that Indian strategic and economic interests should not be hampered, should not be curtailed, then I think India would be in better position, in comfortable position. And if the Chinese are still will work to create an alternative access, like the recently was in the discourse that the China, Pakistan and Bangladesh, they are making an access against India, and they are making an alternative regional forum to balance India or to curtail India. I think those policies would not work, and I think we will go back to the pavilion, and with the same kinds of balancing or containing policies will continue. So I think let the Xi Jinping, what he is speaking is very soft, is very appreciative, and he wants to constructively engage with India. If he stand and stay on these policies, then definitely that the Americans' unilateral approach, hegemonic approach in Asian countries will not work. And I think the two economies and two civilizations will flourish for the betterment of the Asian community. So let's hope for the best, and let the Xi Jinping stand with his arguments, what he is coming out.
Professor Sanjay, I know I said it was my last question, but I want to, at this point in time, want to understand if Trump is going to be scared of this new regional shift. What will be his response? I mean, he's very unpredictable. We all know that. But what is your assessment in this regard? How is US going to react?
I think, number of the Trump's policies are also not endorsed within America. The court is not happy. Even the senators, they are also not happy the way he is coming out with a coercive diplomacy. And he is not understanding what he is going to lose in Indo-Pacific region. That they have built an Indo-Pacific strategy, and under that the Quad has been built, and the other countries are understanding. Japan and Australia, they are understanding that what the Trump is going to lose. And I think the Trump's policy will weaken the initiatives and the partnership under Quad and Indo-Pacific strategy. So he has to understand. Otherwise, what would happen, that he will give a free hand to the rest, or to China, because China is very consciously now is very conscious to develop and to work on its approach to become the global power. He had developed a no limit partnership with the Russians. The Russians and the Chinese were not good in 1970s and 1980s. They distanced from each other, and the Chinese, if they will also develop very good relations with India, so nobody is going to stop the Chinese ambitious plan to create an alternative world order. And I think what is in the best interest, what the Americans also should also think, that they can support the multiplex, or you can say multipolar world order. Let the Japan, let the Australia, India, UK, and all these countries also emerge together, and that is only possible when the Americans administration, they had been trying to cultivate these countries all together to counterbalance, or you can say to contain the rise of Chinese aggressive policies in South China Sea and Indo-Pacific regions and all that. So that Trump has to rationalize that Trump's MAGA will lead the Americans' decline, not make the American great again. It will basically, what Huntington has said, that the West is now starting decline, and the West will decline if these policies will continue, because they are reversing their policies of globalizations and trade and investment and all that, and now it's become suddenly transactional, that give and take, and that transactional approach is also very coercive. It's coercive in its diplomacy. So I think they should positively, constructively engage all these emerging powers to remain a leading global power, and the other powers will also work together. Otherwise, the Chinese will be in good position to create an alternative world order.
Thank you, Professor Sanjay, for giving me your time and also dissecting this particular meeting. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in. If you like this conversation, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, The Indian Express. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Professor.
Very much.